Good morning, America, and welcome to this morning's huddle, brought to you by Going on Offense. My name is Darrell Moon, and I'll be your host today. Thank you for being with us. We hope you'll join the conversation. We have some wonderful guest panelists today to talk about the future from a college student's perspective. Now, we're holding these huddles every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday to support those struggling, to brainstorm strategies to help, to promote resources, and to engage collaboration. Now to introduce today's guests. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Sabrin and Mason Tincher and Braden Leslie, who are all current college students. I'm going to invite them to take 4 or 5 minutes each to introduce themselves, but before I do, I want to invite all of you to participate in today's conversation. We would love to include you. Please just raise your hand on your control box, or if you've got a comment or question to ask, just send that in and we'll share that with everyone. Let's have Sabrin start, and then followed by her husband Mason, and then Braden. Sabrin, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Sabrin. I go to Utah Valley University, and I'm graduating with my bachelor's in marketing in August, actually. I love to go hiking. I love to go to the gym, go outside. We go on walks and hikes like every weekend, every day. We try to. And then I recently just got hired on with you guys at Orion as the sales and marketing representative.
Well, we're glad to have you. Mason.
Yeah, so my name is Mason. I go to Utah Valley University as well. I'm currently working on a aviation science major with an emphasis in professional pilot. So I'm working on my commercial pilot's license right now. Since we're married, we kind of do everything together. We like to go hiking, we like to go on walks. Although I'm a huge college football fan, I love to watch football, I love to watch really any sports. So right now with everything going on, I'm kind of hurting, but but other than that, yeah, just like to hang out in the same room. We like to go out and be outdoors.
Nice. Braden.
Yeah, so my name's Braden Leslie. I am from Springville, Utah. Currently, I'm studying communications at Brigham Young University. I want to eventually graduate, hopefully this December, and pursue a master's degree in healthcare administration. I also, like you said, intern at Orion in a marketing function. So working in healthcare, studying healthcare is really a passion of mine. As far as things I like to do, I like being outdoors, being active, biking, hiking, traveling as often as I can. Is definitely something I like to do, getting out of Utah. Sometimes it feels like we live in a bubble here, so any chance I get to get out of Utah and travel's something I like to do.
Great. Let's start by just asking each of you, and Leslie, maybe you can start, or Braden, maybe you can start. What's it been like to be a college student during this pandemic? How have things changed? What's it been like for you personally?
So that's really interesting that you ask, because personally, I've been able to work through this all. I haven't lost my job. I know people who have. So my experience, sometimes it feels like it hasn't changed at all, because I haven't gotten sick yet. I haven't worked. I'm still a student. Fortunately, right? And it's just interesting to see everything that's going on in the news and in the world where so much chaos and change is happening. And again, just like in Utah, it feels like we've been so fortunate to not have as many cases of COVID-19 compared to this, and still been able to go to school. School's obviously different. We're doing everything online at this point, and not sure if we'll go back to live class sessions in the fall. We may be online still, so that's definitely an adjustment. And it's not my ideal way of learning and engaging with my classmates, but I think a lot of the professors have made tremendous efforts to make it work and to work with students. So it's definitely been an interesting experience. I feel like maybe this isn't the most eclectic group of people to kind of give a good idea of what the world's looking at, but for me personally, my experience of not been too much different from maybe what it would be.
Okay. Mason, what's it been like for you?
As far as from a learning standpoint, everything's changed quite a bit. When everything started with COVID, they actually shut down the Provo airport. They halted all of our training. And then just last week, they'd allowed us all to come back, but there's a whole list of protocols. We have to wear our mask even when we're in the airplane. We're not allowed to pre-flight with anybody around. Just kind of changed that whole dynamic of being involved in an aviation culture where you can ask questions and throw ideas and scenarios, whereas now you walk in, you walk out, you're in and out as quickly as possible. So it's changing that aspect quite a bit for me, as far as just learning, but also, like Braden said, we're kind of lucky for me first to be able to keep my job, but also still be able to continue my education.
And Sebrin.
So for school-wise, for me, it hasn't affected me that much because I am used to doing online classes. I love doing online classes, so that's pretty much what I've been used to a lot. So as far as that aspect, online classes are for me and I love it. But when the whole pandemic hit, I was doing an internship and I wasn't working. And so it really affected the end of my internship and I wasn't really able to, I guess I finished my internship, but it wasn't as in-depth as I would like it to be. And then just trying to find a job was crazy because no one was hiring. It was like hiring freeze and I was applying so many places and then I got lucky, but pretty much just trying to find a job and finishing the internship was really hard for me.
So let me ask each of you to just talk a little bit about emotionally, how has this affected your emotional well-being over the last few months with the economy plummeting, with the scare of the COVID-19, a lot of other chaos happening? Have you sensed your own emotional well-being changing, and has it been a little more stressful, anxious? Maybe we start with you, Sabrin.
Yeah, I think I have been a little bit more stressed out with like the economy. Like I've never experienced anything like this. So it was really scary for that while, like when the gas prices were going down and like everything was closed. Like I've never experienced that before. And then I think that also the media and like how everyone was reacting and you couldn't get toilet paper and you couldn't all the food, like the meat at the grocery stores were out. And so I think during that time when it was like kind of at the peak is what I was really like stressed out. And I kept texting Mason and calling him. And I'm like, we need to go grocery shopping. I'm freaking out. I'm so scared. Because I'm like, this is so crazy to me. I've never experienced that. And I would like call him and I'm like, do we have toilet paper? I'm like, I have to go to like 3 different stores in like 10 minutes because there's nothing. So I think that during like peak is what really like kind of freaked me out. And I don't think that the media helped in everyone's response to that. But I think that as time has moved on, it's gotten a lot easier, but at the same time, it's not normal.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Mason?
Yeah, I'd say definitely there's that uneasiness, especially being in college. You're wondering, okay, well, what's the industry that I've been working to go towards? Is it still going to be there? You're seeing like Warren Buffett and everybody coming out saying that there could be an airline going under. You're talking about bailouts. And so you're okay, well, what's going to be the state after I get out of school? And also just kind of come up being through the recession as a kid and seeing parents lose their job and wondering if it's going to be that tough again once I get out of school. So there is kind of that uneasiness. And like Sabrin said, with the media, it kind of makes you a little bit more nervous and overwhelmed. But I think we're getting ahead of it. I think that some of the protocols that have been put into place are helping. So the time will tell with what happens in the long run.
And also like with his like going into being a pilot, there's so many times where he was like, well, I don't think I can be a pilot anymore because I don't think that the aviation industry is gonna happen. And well, what happened? Sorry, our thing went away. And so we just had many conversations. He was like, well, what do I do if I'm not a pilot? So like we've had those like stressful moments and conversations.
I would think particularly in your in your position that's made you reflect and think and go, gee, what's this going to look like?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, you see like American and everybody furloughing pilots, and you're like, well, do we still have a pilot shortage, or are we for the past 4 years kind of change overnight? So definitely some uneasiness there.
Yeah. Braden, how have you been doing emotionally during this?
Emotionally, I think I've been doing well. Just like Mason and Sabrin said, observing a lot of the things going on in the media has been hard to navigate. There's been a lot of emotion in the media and just in the general public. You know, people are running around like crazy buying masks, buying out grocery stores. I mean, I've never gone to a grocery store in my life and seen entire aisles empty. I mean, that was bizarre to me. I didn't know that was possible. So that's definitely, that like really helped things set in for me when I started seeing that, and when hours of businesses changed. You know, places that were normally later places, you show up and it's already closed. You know, also limiting the amount of things we were able to go out and do for a number of days was interesting. It just felt like we kind of had to rethink what we do for fun and how we live day to day, and how we interact with people, who we can interact with. I mean, there's a number of people that I know who have who are compromised, have comorbidities, who have health issues that, you know, for their safety, I couldn't interact with. And, you know, that weight that's on me, that if I somehow interacted with them by accident and they got COVID, I mean, there's that dynamic going on. You know, you don't want to accidentally give it to someone because maybe you're asymptomatic. So like playing out all these scenarios, I think for a lot of people has been pretty exhausting. And then knowing people personally who have dealt with COVID, luckily nothing severe, but still, like, it's pretty crazy to have known people. It just sets in when you go to the testing tent for the first time, and you get administered and you see people get administered to. Just the reality sets in a little bit about kind of where our world is at. And but like Mason said, it feels like things are moving forward. Protocols are being put in place. I think the hysteria with COVID at least has passed, and we're moving forward in the right direction. And I think that's a good sign.
So what are some things that you feel like you've done to help manage that emotional well-being? That, you know, this whole going on offense movement is to provide support, ideas, suggestions. Sure, maybe we'll start with Braden. What are some things that you have found? Have you changed anything, or has not changing anything helped you? And a little bit about how you've managed that hysteria or anxiety that you felt.
One thing, and I think it's interesting that I'm a communications studies major, and I actually only have one social media platform that I never update anything to. So being not on social media, I think has actually helped me a lot, because I'm just not seeing all the hysteria, all the news from both sides, the, you know, people making their own comments and conjecture on what's going on. So that's helped me. Definitely when COVID kind of peaked and the gyms closed, that was kind of like a de-stressor for me, you know, to be able to go and exercise and maintain physical fitness was just purely something for me that helped me to stay sane. And when the gyms closed and I wasn't able to go to the gyms anymore, there definitely was a period of time where, you know, what do I do? How do I figure this out? So I went and bought a bike, and biking a lot more. And I actually really like biking now. So I don't know if I'm really need to go back to the gym, but so it's just funny, like bike stores have been selling out as well. Everyone's been getting their stimulus checks and buying a bike, which is great. You know, it's great. Everyone's going to be a little bit more fit in 2020, but so managing my emotional has been, I think, successful, just because my own schedule hasn't changed that much. Things have been adjusted, protocols have been put in place, but overall my day-to-day is very much the same. I'm very much busy or even more busy than I was before. And I think I've just been really fortunate to find opportunities with internships, and my work is still stable. Works normal as ever. It's even picked up more. So I just think that's really interesting. And so sometimes I find it hard to relate with people who have lost their jobs, just because my day-to-day seems to have not changed at all.
Well, and as you mentioned, probably the biggest change is just the fact that you're not going into school and associating with other students. You're just working from home or going to school from home.
Yeah, definitely. That's been a huge adjustment, and getting used to Zoom classes. 3 hours long Zoom classes are probably no one's tea, but got to do what you got to do, I guess.
Yeah. How about you, Sabrin? What have you done to kind of try to manage your emotional well-being?
I think kind of along the same lines as what Braden was saying. I think that for the first while, I was watching the media and I was on my phone all the time, and I was just like getting all these constant updates, and that's where I found where I was stressing out the most. And I think by just like putting that to the side and going on runs, like I found out that I am a huge runner. Like I love running outside now. So I'm like, during this whole thing, I found out that I love to run. So I think that that's been a huge de-stressor too. It's just, I wake up, instead of looking on the news, I just go for my run and kind of clear my head. But yeah, that's pretty much what we do.
Nice. How about you, Mason?
Yeah, pretty similar to Braden is I think the best way to deal with kind of the quarantine, some of the emotional right now is just to get busy and stay busy for me right now, it's school and work. The other way I like to deal with it is in my routine in the morning, when she goes on a run, I like to have just 10 minutes just to myself, just be quiet, reflect on what I'm going to do that day, almost make me feel well. And that way I just kind of know how I'm feeling, just like an emotional checkup for myself. And it seems to help pretty well, know where I stand at all points every day.
All very good suggestions. Now, Braden, you said you know somebody who's, or some of your friends have gotten COVID. How has that adjusted or affected you and your relationship with them? And Sabrin and Mason, have you had any contact or know anyone that's dealing with it? Braden, maybe you first.
Yeah, for sure. So I think definitely there was a period of time where interactions were limited, and it was startling to think that COVID had finally reached someone I know. And like I said, luckily they had pretty mild symptoms for just a couple days, and it was a confirmed case, and they all got tested. So, it wasn't just any fluke, random sickness. But it's just interesting because I think everyone's probably heard the joke, we might as well just go out and try and get it now rather than later. It's inevitable probably at this point that we'll run into it eventually. And we can kind of just joke about it now. I know that's probably terrible, but that they already got it, they're fine, they're off the hook. And now it's just looming over me. I'm going to be the next one to get it probably. So, but definitely I think there's just a level of concern because it just seems like it can go so many different ways. It can put someone who's healthy, even who doesn't have comorbidities, in the hospital, and then someone who you think would be sick seems to be fine.
Yeah.
I think that degree of just unknown makes it kind of a hard thing to deal with and increases some of that fear associated with it. So I just feel fortunate that loved ones of mine, friends and family of mine who have had it, haven't gotten sick and put in the hospital. But that's not to say that there's so many people obviously out there who have experienced that, who have experienced tragic loss. And so just feeling very fortunate on my end that hasn't been my case.
Right. Sabrin and Mason, have you run into anyone, had any contact with anyone that's had it?
Fortunately, we haven't. Yeah. There was a kid that I did my internship with during this whole thing, and he was high risk. So that was kind of, I guess the closest that I've been to is someone that was like considered high risk, because you just have to be more aware and you don't want to have like that conscience on you that you could possibly be the reason that this person gets sick. But that's probably the closest thing that I've had to deal with.
I think I may have shared with some of you that my daughter had COVID, and the scary part is she had absolutely no symptoms. Now, she worked in a type of health environment where she was taking care of some handicapped people, and everyone in her work got it. And that's why she knew she had it, was because everyone needed to be tested. So she was tested, but she had absolutely no symptoms, which is kind of a scary thing, because in her case, had she not been tested, or had she not found out that she'd gotten it through her work, she literally would have never known that she had it. And she would have gone about her business, interacting with roommates, interacting with other people, trying to stay safe, but still with no symptoms. That's one of the things that's so dangerous, is if she hadn't been tested from work, she wouldn't have known that she had it. So it clearly creates this unknown, which creates a certain amount of anxiety for all of us to say, gee, how are we protecting ourselves from people who may have it and they don't know they have it? And not that they're trying to hurt anybody, but it's like you said, Braden, it's those people that are high risk who get it, who may wind up in the hospital or passing away because of it. So clearly, we all need to take precautions and be safe, even as we get back to work, and even as things begin to get back into a normalcy of some degree. You just don't know. You could have it and not know it.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a scary.
What are you hearing from other college students? I'm curious to know. Mason, with some of the people in your program, are you interacting with some of those others in the aviation program, and are they also asking the same questions?
Sorry, excuse me. So the interaction right now at the airport's pretty minimal. I mean, when we show up, we run through a list of questions for symptoms. They take our temperature, and then we get our dispatch information for the plane. And that's about the last time you see somebody until you come back from your flight. And so I think right now the overall feeling at the airport though is people are happy, but we also understand the process, because similar, like you just don't want to have someone get sick and then you have to close the whole program down again. So it's more of like a better safe than sorry situation.
Right. So how much longer do you have, Mason, in your program? Because again, as you're finishing your program and as you're able to do your flights, then you can keep making progress. But in terms of that day when you're done and now, are there jobs available? How much time do you have?
So I'll graduate at the end of fall semester of 2020.
Okay. So not too far away.
No.
I'm curious to know if any of you have experienced within your future career outlooks or perspectives or prospects, have things changed? And do you anticipate that you might have to pivot a little bit because of that? Like Mason, maybe in your case, are there other opportunities still within the aviation industry that you could pursue if in fact there's this oversupply of pilots and shortage of demand?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most definitely. I mean, that's where a lot of people are kind of considering the military route, just because you can go in, the military still has a shortage of pilots. You can still get your hours and learn to fly, become a great pilot through that way. But a lot of people also forget that there's more than just the airlines. I mean, there's a whole corporate side of aviation, business aviation, as well as instructing. So there is different plans to pivot inside of aviation. It just depends on, what you want to do and what you want your schedule to be.
How about you, Braden, in terms of your perspective? I guess healthcare probably isn't, although in some respects, a lot of healthcare has diminished just because elective healthcare has plummeted significantly. Has the pandemic affected your outlook on where to go look for a job or what kind of job you'd like to have? Give us a little bit your thoughts.
Yeah, so I'm not pursuing anything clinical, of course, and I think there is high demand for clinical, and there always will be. As far as pursuing operations and management, I mean, healthcare is just such a huge field, and there's such a need for it right now. in traditional healthcare, health technologies, mental health care. It just, it's such an easy field from, at least from where I'm at right now, where I sit. I see a million different ways I could go. And that in itself is a little bit daunting, not knowing at this point, with the current atmosphere, what is the right way to go. Because, you never know. I could get started down a path and then it could go kaput very easily. But I feel pretty optimistic about my path, and within healthcare especially, just because that's where I want to end up. And pursuing healthcare through communications is probably a little bit unorthodox, but that's why I want to pursue, graduate school and get education so that I can make myself more marketable, and just being able to do internships in, varying capacities within healthcare has also been really helpful, and working in the mental health care space professionally has been very helpful, just to get good exposure to all my options. So I feel optimistic that I can figure something out, and I'm the kind of person who's happy to take an opportunity when I see it, and I feel like I don't have a fixed mindset on a specific thing that I want to do, and it has to be that way. So that flexibility has also been very strategic and beneficial for me personally.
You brought up a topic I'd like to address, and that is the idea of more schooling, and a higher degree. Maybe each of you could share if you've heard of students maybe considering, where possibly before the pandemic they might have just finished up the degree they're in, but maybe are now considering to get a more schooling with the economy like it is. Is that something you've heard from others?
Yeah, do you want me to start? I feel like because the people I most closely associate with are still in school, a lot of them, or at least the people I run with, had already planned on pursuing graduate school. I think the biggest thing is just when. This whole recession and COVID has kind of thrown a wrench in a lot of people's plans to pursue it immediately. So I think maybe not pursuing grad school, yes or no, but when has kind of been the question I know a lot of people I'm close with had to figure out. I also think a lot of people are maybe scrambling to find school or trades that are marketable and are always going to be needed. I think it's maybe been a little bit of a wake-up call to people I know who have pursued less than marketable degrees to kind of figure something out quick so that they can ensure that they have a job in the future. And I think that that's always been a concern that people have, is pursuing things that's marketable. But I think maybe more than ever, with so many people losing their jobs and it being such a reality for everybody, I think that's just on the forefront of people's minds, is what can I do to ensure that I have work? So yeah.
Good. Before Mason and Saber, you share if you've heard that, I'd like to invite, we've got a number of people that are attending today and listening in. I would invite them to share any questions or advice they may have for you all. So either send in a question through your control box or raise your hand on your control box. We'll open up your mic and you can join the conversation. So we'll just encourage those who are participating to jump in and either share their thoughts or suggestions or advice to these three students, or if they've got questions. So Mason and Saber, have you heard of maybe people, or in your case, have you considered looking at more schooling as an alternative if finding a job becomes difficult? And what would that look like in your case, Mason?
So I know a lot of people have actually been considering about double majoring. I mean, it's kind of hard to do a complete pivot to a different degree when you're spending $20,000 a semester on a flight or a pilot's license, or furthering that license. But I know a lot of people have been switching to or adding like a business management or an aviation management That way, like you said, if things become too competitive and people aren't hiring pilots, you can look into going to a different career field or managing an airline or something like that, and still being able to evolve or stay in the aviation industry.
Okay, Sabrin, have you heard of maybe folks considering more education?
So I think Braden hit that right on the spot. For me, I definitely want to pursue a master's degree, but I keep going back and forth with when. That's just my biggest question right now. It's just like, do I wait? Do I just keep going, or just that's just where I'm at right now. Is for me personally, I definitely want to pursue, but I just don't know when. When is a good time? Question of unknown.
So Mason, going back to you in your situation, did not being able to go in and fly actually put you and the other students behind during these last few months? Are you
Yeah.
now behind because of this?
Yeah, so for instance, like I was supposed to finish my commercial license during the spring, and then this summer I was supposed to do multi-engine operations, but with everything going on, everybody got delayed an entire semester. So that was kind of frustrating, but yeah, like you said, it delays the whole process.
Nice. Any suggestions that any of you might have for other college students or really anyone who are having to be resilient right now? Now let's address maybe this topic of resilience because we've been discussing it, but Braden, any suggestions you might have to others who are either students or even non-students in just addressing the challenges of the current environment?
Yeah, I think it's very circumstantial depending on where people are at in their lives, their stage of life, their financial situation, whether they're going to pursue school, drop out of school. There's so much up in the air right now with what's the best decision to make. And right now, I think it's hard to say that there's any decision that's better than the other. For me, in order to stay resilient through these trying times where there's a lot of questions and maybe not a lot of answers, staying busy for me has been something that's helped me just keep my head on straight. Staying busy, staying active, finding things to fill my time, being able to spend time with the people I care about, as long as it's safe. And we're moving towards that. I think things are getting back to a place where social interactions, and I know that's probably been hard for a lot of people, is the limited social interaction on a larger scale has been hard. So it's good that we're moving back towards that. But as far as me, maintaining resilience has been just like that, staying busy, getting engaged in things I wasn't before. I'm reading more. I found other venues of being physically fit, biking, walking, hiking, just appreciating, in Utah, we live in a beautiful state, and being able to go on hikes more often, travel within the state, and just stay busy has been a huge thing for me, because I feel like, an idle mind can go so many places, and that's a lot of times when you start getting on the social media, you start stressing and overthinking. So keeping my mind busy has definitely helped me stay resilient.
Good. Sabrin.
Yeah, I think just keep doing what you enjoy, but safely. I think that for us, like, this has really been awesome because with both of our schooling and especially how busy he is with flying, we never really got time together. And so now we're home together all the time. So I feel like just like spending time with your family and getting off the social media, going on walks every night, really awesome and has really helped us a lot.
Nice. Very good. A lot of the guests we've had on these Going on Offense huddles have talked about the value of both gratitude and service. Have any of you run into opportunities within this controlled environment to either find the value of gratitude and appreciation, or to find ways to serve others, and how has that helped you? Mason and Saber, maybe you first.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm trying to think. We have been pretty sheltered, so I feel, I guess, more guilty on the service end, but I think that gratitude has really made a huge difference. I think it made us appreciate things a lot more, and not take everything for granted. I think even just going out to eat, I think we all just took that for granted, or just doing normal things is what we took for granted. So I think just gratitude and being grateful has really made a huge impact for us.
Yeah, just
Thanks, Braden.
You wanna go, Mason?
Or Mason?
Just adding to that is that the gratitude is just like both mentioned earlier, of just realizing that you take these time or more time to spend with your family than you've been able to in the past. I think that's just a huge ticket of gratitude. As far as service, as Saber, I think she forgot, she actually helped my mom make masks for SkyWest Airlines, who my mom works with. So she's been in service. I think she just kind of forgets sometimes, but yeah, that was another awesome service opportunity that she did.
Right. Braden.
Yeah, I think definitely formal service opportunities have been limited. So thinking about going out of my way, I've had the opportunity to do meal trains for a family that both mom and dad, well, currently the dad has COVID and is, quarantined himself in the house, and, he's not able to work. The mom is sick. They have triplets. And so being able to participate in a meal train and helping them, be able to eat has been a great way to serve. Outside of that, I personally can't think of a lot of, big opportunities where I've been able to serve. That's actually great. I, wish I would have thought of or been looking for opportunities like this. But definitely gratitude has been huge. Like Mason and Sabrin said, spending that extra time that we probably take for granted with our family has been huge, and spending time with those close to me and being home more just because we're not going to school, we're not going to work a lot of times, has been nice, and just feeling grateful for our circumstances that I personally haven't been sick yet. I've still been working, so just there definitely has been a lot of gratitude and opportunity to express that and realize that in ways that I didn't before.
Right. So we have a question that just came in from one of our attendees. As young people, how have you stayed connected to your family during this time? What type of support have you received or given to other family members? Maybe we start with Saber.
I think luckily with growing up and having this technology, it's been awesome. We can always FaceTime or Zoom. My family, they live in Arizona, and so for me, it's just a lot of calls and a lot of FaceTime calls to just kind of be connected with them. But yeah.
Mason?
Yeah, I'd say my older sister, she lives in California, they're in San Diego. And just rather than going out and taking trips like we usually do in the summer, we've just been FaceTiming. They've been really good about quarantining, staying at home, so we just wanted to do our part as well by not traveling.
Mm-hmm.
Braden?
Yeah, FaceTimes, phone calls, instead of going to a family dinner, we'll do the family dinner outside, and we'll be very separated, chairs 6 feet apart. That's happened on multiple occasions where we've started to eat outside, so that we're not inside congested and breathing each other's same air, right? Doing lunches, just like hanging out, pulling out the lawn chairs and just hanging out outside in the open air has definitely been a way that I've connected and spent time with family. Going on like family outings, getting outdoors with the family, things that typically we didn't do before. I've seen that happen a lot more frequently, and I'm really fortunate. I live close to my family and friends, and so as long as, as much as we've been practicing safety and precautions, definitely I've been able to see them a lot more and enjoy that communication in different ways.
Great. Well, as we're coming to the end now, I'd like to just give each of you a chance to, if you have a thought you'd like to share in closing, please feel free to do so. Braden, any kind of concluding thoughts?
No, this has been great. I've been watching these webinars for the last month and a half or two, right, Darrell? And there's definitely been a lot of really cool ideas shared. And I think being able to work closely with you and Orion and just promote good news and positivity and recognizing the good things that are going on, how we can get engaged and go on offense within our communities, within our families. I think it's just something that maybe we don't think about. We just kind of get stuck going day to day like zombies. We just run from task to task. And COVID, as destructive and terrible as it's been good in a sense to kind of slow us down, to ground us, to make us focus and prioritize those things that should be important in our lives. And so I think hopefully we can keep that at the forefront of our minds and just remember to prioritize communication with our loved ones, to slow things down, to remember what's important. That's definitely been one of my biggest takeaways through all this, through these webinars, and just from this entire experience.
Great, thanks. Mason, any concluding wisdom thoughts?
Yeah, I think this has been a great conversation that we've had. I think just the great thing about stuff like this is it reminds us of the positivity that we're also all in this fight together, that this isn't just a certain group of people, but it's the entire world right now working to combat this problem. And things like this are a great way to avoid a lot of the negativity that we come across on social media and the news, to find some positive light.
And Sabra?
Yeah, just the same, like we're all in this together. We just have to stay positive. We can't let the media take over our fears. We just have to control what we can control and stay active and be positive, and I guess just do what we can and try to continue on with our new normal.
Yes, it is a new normal, isn't it? Well, thank you, each of you. I appreciate it very much. Let me just mention in conclusion that our guest panelist for this Friday, June 12th, will be Aubrey Cleary, specialist in communications, marketing, and brand enhancement. Aubrey will be helping me lead a conversation where we hope that many will share strategies that various families are using to bond remotely during this time. If any of you have any suggestions, please share those as we look towards future huddles and topics and guest panelists. If you've got something you'd like to recommend, we'd love to hear from you. You can contact us through the Going on Offense website and the Contact Us form. You will receive a survey following the huddle today. Please give us feedback through that survey. Again, we want to thank our guest panelists today, Braden, Mason, Sabra. Thank you very much. This has been delightful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'd also like to thank the organizations that have gotten behind this movement. You can take advantage of their offers. Many have offered free services to be support and helpful. There are many opportunities there on our Going on Offense website. We are recording the huddle today. We'll be posting that on the website later. And in conclusion, I'd like to share with you a video that I came across of one community's efforts to thank those in the healthcare industry for their support. So we'll sign off now, say goodbye. Please join us for an upcoming huddle and enjoy this final video.